iPad letterers! In today's video I'm going to show you step by step how to make this super cute bubble letters font completely on your iPad. You will learn how to design and test the font and then install and use it in your favorite apps. Of course, you will be able to use the font not just on your iPad but on your computer as well. I'm sure you've seen bubble letters everywhere. It's a super trendy font right now and lends itself for many applications as it is cute and personal, full of character and stands out due to the bold, curvy letter forms. We're going to use the Font Self app for this tutorial. I have reviewed this app before when it first came out and it has come such a long way since then with many very useful features and updates. So you will be very pleased to see the new capabilities. You'll see that the app has a number of templates available to help you get started really quickly. Let's select the serif template. Next up, we will need to choose one of the brushes the app comes with. And for today's font, I recommend you use the pencil. Let's make the brush a little bit thicker and set that streamline to 100%. And so now what we're going to do is trace all the letters of this template. So this is actually really easy to do. So all you have to do is just follow the lines of the serif letters and then draw in that shape like this. And then in order to fill the letter, all you have to do is long press with your Apple Pencil and it fills your letter. And there we have our first bubble letter already. Of course, it looks a little bit wobbly right now, but don't worry about it. I really recommend that you draw all the letters first before we go to the next step and refine the letters. This will help you decide what thickness that you want for all your letters. And seeing all the letters first actually makes this a lot easier. And you can see now how much fun this is. All you have to do really is go around your letters, trace them, and then long tap to fill the shape. You don't have to draw the whole letter in one line. You can also stop and then start again if you want to. So really draw however it makes you feel most comfortable. One of the things you want to make sure is that you have relatively similar spacing around all your letters and make them roughly the same thickness. Of course, you can still change it later, but it will just make your work a little bit easier. And you can also see now how rough I'm tracing these shapes. And while I'm drawing these letter forms, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the Font Self app. I've reviewed this probably 2 years ago, and one of the main features that was lacking at the time was the ability to edit notes, and you'll see in just a little while how we can do this now. It's really come a long way and it is so much fun to use. And yes, I also wanted to mention that this is not a sponsored video. I just wanted to make this because I genuinely believe this is a lot of fun and you will enjoy this process as much as I do. I've always had a passion for making fonts since I was very young. And so now that we can do this on the iPad really means that this is a dream come true. You'll also notice that my streamline setting is quite strong. So if you prefer it to be a little bit less, of course, feel free to change the brush setting. But I actually think it's quite nice because it forces the roundness of the strokes a little bit more. So if you were going to make a different font, then maybe change that setting a little bit. But for this bubble letter font that is really, really rounded, this is actually a benefit. Alright, so now this is the first step done. I'm only going to do the uppercase letters, but of course feel free to do all the letters at once first. But if you wanted to, you could totally do only uppercase letters. It'll actually generate the lowercase letters from the uppercase letters automatically if you export the font. But now let's go into edit mode. So we're going to change from our brush to the arrow tool here. And then we are going to select one of the shapes. And so the first thing you want to do is adjust the size. Because we've traced the letters, they have now become quite a lot bigger than the original template. So what you want to do is just make it ever so slightly smaller so that it fits between your baseline and your cap height here. And this will also ensure that all your letters are going to be the same size. And then the next step is to turn on node editing. So you tap on this little icon here and you can see now how it's created all these nodes. And of course, that's way too many. And that's the reason why the letter looks a little bit wonky. And so now what you want to do is tap on the magic wand tool and you can see now how all the nodes are getting reduced and the lines become a lot smoother. So you can tap on this for a few times until you don't see any more nodes removed. And so now we can go in and further refine our shape. If you tap on one of the nodes, you'll see that the Bezier curves appear here. So now you can drag on these and you can adjust the shape. And what you can do as well is actually remove these nodes. So you tap on this little icon here, and so now the node gets removed, and you'll see now how the shape automatically becomes a lot rounder. And of course now we can adjust this, and the nice thing is you don't necessarily have to work with the nodes. You can actually also just drag on the line to bring the shape back, or of course you can select the node and then drag the curves around like this. And so now the process is the same. We're just going to go around all our letters and adjust the curves until you're happy with the shape of each letter. And this is really such a fun process. It doesn't actually take too long, but it's really fun to see how the letters take shape and how you create these fun bubble letters with it. And again, I wouldn't spend too much time on this just yet. You just want to get all the letters roughly the same size and reduce the number of nodes that you have. So now again, we're going to go through all the letters and do the same thing. Adjust the size first, select the node tool, and then start reducing the number of nodes that we have. If you find that you can't remove any more nodes automatically, then of course you can go in and remove them manually. And I'm really quite frugal when it comes to nodes. I really like to have them removed as much as possible, just because it's giving me much smoother lines. And then another thing you'll notice here, that sometimes it has created these edge nodes. And so what you can do with these is straighten them up with this tool here. And for this bubble letter font, I recommend that you have all that straight lines and no edges, because we want the font to be nice and round. And what's nice about this app as well is that it supports the same undo and redo gestures like Procreate. So you can 2-finger tap to undo and 3-finger tap to redo. And because I've already got this in my muscle memory, it's really, really nice to work like this. And you can really see how with every node that I remove, my shape becomes a little bit rounder. Of course, I need to adjust it a little bit, but that's really the fun part of font creation, losing yourself in all the details and perfect the font until it looks exactly how you've intended. If you've accidentally removed a node that you thought still needed to be there, of course you can 2-finger tap undo, but what you can do as well is long tap on the line to create a new node like this. This is also helpful if you wanted to create a node at a slightly different place or just create a brand new one. And what you can do as well is move several nodes at the same time. And in order to do that, you drag over the nodes that you want to select until they're all blue, and then you tap on one of the nodes, and then you can move the selected nodes all at once like this. So this letter here is particularly ugly, but let's see how quickly we can transform this into a more presentable version. So I'm going to adjust my nodes here and then remove some of them. And really the reason why this letter doesn't look good is because the part here in the middle is too small. So now I'm going to straighten the curves here, and then I'm just going to increase the bubble in the middle here a little bit. And you can see how quickly this letter looks so much better already. Again, I'm not going to go too much into the details. I just really want to get through all the letters really quickly and adjust them, and then have a look at all of them. You've also noticed that we've got this preview here at the top, and I actually think this is super useful as well, because it shows you the letter in context, but it's also showing them a little bit smaller. So it's much easier to spot some of the irregularities that you might not see when you're zoomed in like this. So now that letter M can be a little bit tricky, but I want to show you a little trick on how to make this easier. Because it's a symmetrical letter, what you can do now is use the eraser tool here and then split this in half like this. And now we can delete this part and then copy and paste this and then flip it vertical. And now we can combine these two sides to make the letter symmetrical again. So you want to select both shapes and then go back to your node tool. And now you can see here that there is a new button, and this allows you now to combine all the nodes into one continuous shape. So we're tapping on that, and now we have this one shape, which is super cool. I don't recommend to use the magic wand tool for this because it might rearrange your nodes in a way that makes the letter unsymmetrical again. So for this, I recommend that you just go in and select the nodes that you want to remove, and then you remove them manually like this. And so now I want to show you another trick, and that is copying one letter shape to the other. And because the O and the Q are quite similar, so now what we can do is we can just copy the O and then add the little extra mark here at the bottom. So in order to do that, you select the shape and then tap on copy and then you select the other shape, so we can delete this now. And then you long tap in the space of the letter to paste the other letter. So now this pastes the letter at the exact same spot as it was in the previous spot. And now we can just add the little mark here at the bottom like this. And this makes it really easy to make the letters look quite similar. So now I want to adjust this a little bit. So I'm going to combine all the shapes again, the same way that we've done before. And then go to Node, Editing, and then I'm going to tap on Combine. And you can see here again, it's created quite a few nodes, and we want to remove these manually, otherwise it might change the shape of the rest of our letter, which is not what we want. But it doesn't take very long, there's not too many here. So we can just select them and then remove them. And sometimes you might also find yourself lucky, and just by removing nodes, it might actually change the shape in a really favorable way. So it's always worth taking the risk and removing a node to see what you can get. So now the T is a symmetrical letter again, so if you wanted to, you could split this in half and make it even on both sides. But sometimes it can also be nice that not both sides are the same. So I think I'm actually going to leave this a little bit wonky. It just adds to the character of the letter. But let's see, I might change my mind later on. Another question you might have is, how do you know which nodes to remove? And the honest answer is, I don't actually know. Usually what I do is I try to find a node that's on a relatively straight line and then remove it. But it's really just a lot of guesswork. I'm sure there's a scientific explanation for this, since this is all physics, but I don't really know what it is. And so really what I do, I just go by feel and try it out. And if I've removed too many nodes, I undo or put the nodes back. And now this side of the V is really quite wonky. So for this letter, I'm actually going to split it in half and then duplicate it. So I'm going to select the eraser tool again and then just draw the line here through the middle. And then we can erase this and we can copy and paste this part and then flip it like this. And now we can put the two sides together. So for this shape here, there is a little bit of a gap. So now what you can do is just fill in the gap with your brush tool like this. And since we are going to combine all the shapes again anyway, it doesn't really matter if it's got some extra lines here. So now we're going to go into node editing mode and then combine all the shapes again like this. All right, so now we have a first pass of our uppercase letters and it's time to refine them. But before you do that, I recommend that you try them out. And there is a type and showcase option here in the app. So you tap on this. And this is now giving you a preview of your font. So you can tap on it and then you can see what it looks like. This is quite nice because you can see the letters in different variation next to each other and you can spot some irregularities. I particularly like this view here where you can see them on black and white. And it's quite easy to spot where you might need to adjust your letters a bit. For example, here the R, you can see there are some parts that are quite a bit thinner than others. And here the N is a little bit wonky. And so you can go through all the letters and really spot where you might want to adjust them. And so now it's time to refine some of the shapes a little bit. And in order to do this, I actually recommend that you look up here for any changes. So anytime you move one of the nodes, it'll adjust in the preview here. And you can see just this tiny little adjustment that I've made has made quite a big difference to the R. And I actually quite like it now. So the next letter I want to tackle is the N. This is a bit too wonky for my taste. So we're going to straighten up some of these lines and then maybe remove another node or two. And you'll see that sometimes it's tiny little adjustments that you need to make. It really doesn't take much for the letters to look completely different. What you might find helpful as well in order to test out your letters is actually type your own text in here. For example, you can just write the whole alphabet like this. And sometimes this makes it much more obvious which letters you might need to adjust. For example, the T here is still a little bit too high, but this is an easy fix. We can just bring this down a little bit and now it looks much better already. And then another thing you might want to adjust is the kerning in between the letters. And in order to do that, you tap on that font settings and now you can adjust your character spacing. By default, it's set to 30 and the word spacing is set to 250. And so now you can play with this a little bit just to see if you like it better. And the nice thing about this app is that it kerns all the letters automatically, so you don't need to do this individually. But there is an algorithm built into the app that determines the correct spacing between each characters. And so now you can try this out and see what you like better. And I think 30 is actually quite good and the word spacing looks good to me as well. We've also got some more metrics here that you can change, but you don't really need to do this. But what you might want to do is name your font. At the moment, it's called My Cool Font 1. And so we can give this a name. I haven't actually decided what I want to call my font yet. So maybe we just call it Bubbly, and then you can type your name here and your website if you want to, and your copyright info as well. But now comes the moment of truth. Now we're going to export that font and see what it looks like in other apps. So in order to do that, you tap on the export icon here and then tap on export font file. So now this is going to generate the font as an OTF, and you can save this to your iPad anywhere you like. And in order to install the font, I like using the iFont app. This is a free app and it's really easy to install the font. So all you have to do now is tap on the import icon here and then select the font from wherever you saved it to, and then open it up. And so now here it is. We can tap on it and you can see all the glyphs here. And you also see that it's generated both uppercase and lowercase letters, except of course they look the same, but it's nice because you can type lowercase letters and it'll still type the uppercase version as well. And so now you tap on install and you tap on allow. So now it's downloaded that profile and put it into the settings. So now we're going to tap on settings, and then you'll see that there is a new option here that came up that says profile downloaded. So you tap on that and then tap on install. So now it's going to ask for the passcode of your iPad and then install, and now it's done. So now let's try this out in Procreate. Now let's try adding some text. And so the font that you see here is the one that I've already created. But of course now we want to test the font that we've just created, which is called Bubbly. So now I'm going to select Bubbly and let's make it a bit bigger. And let's type something. This is how easy it is to create your own bubble font on your iPad. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.